everybody for coming out tonight. This is the first time we're using the mic. Is it helpful? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like I'm a little louder.
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So thank you very much for coming. We're Volition Investment Properties. Who's new here? I see like maybe like about half the room. So for those of you guys who don't know, we're a full-service real estate investment firm. You know, do the fancy slides. We're not very formal. At least that wasn't obvious. So we created this group about 3 years ago. It was basically a way for us to create a real estate investment community. I've been investing since 2001, and for the longest time, I was doing it as a solo endeavor. And investing by yourself not only sucks, because you don't know if what you're doing is correct or not. You read all you can on the internet, but there are times you will need like emotional support in this journey. And selfishly, about 3 years ago, myself and one of my business partners, Matt, he's not here today. He just had a baby. But we started this group about 3 years ago to create this community, not only to educate, but selfishly to help ourselves through this journey. So what do? There's kind of 4 parts to our business. We do advisory, which is just this. So it's me standing up here talking to you about what's happening in the market. It's also individual consultations and kind of like an internal consulting service within our company. So if you do work with us, you want to buy an investment property, basically you're buying my time as well, and I work with you guys to help you out with whatever problem you may be having, or educate you or your spouse or whoever might be involved in your real estate investing. The next piece we have is the realty services, and that is finding the properties. This is, if you've tried to buy an investment property in the Toronto market, it's really challenging. We buy, off-market properties from wholesalers. We get, obviously stuff off MLS, and we pre-analyze everything, so we're not just sending you a bunch of junk, which you have to then do your own due diligence on. You should still do your own due diligence, but everything's kind of qualified. The next piece is renovations. Often when you get a home, it's not really meant set up from the beginning as a proper investment. So there was a need amongst ourselves because we were buying these homes and we do construction on them. So we spun up a construction division. We have a licensed interior designer on board. She does all the drawings and she helps manage the projects as well. Ed is also doing project management these days. And then lastly, we have property management, leasing, that kind of stuff. That's a loss leader for us. We just have that in place so that way people can continue to invest. That's not really open to everybody. It's just people who are already our clients, and that's just so they can continue focusing on investing and not managing tenants. So we had this slide up on here because this is what we like to think of ourselves as a big gigantic eraser. This is like your journey through real estate investing, and our job is really to be the person that kind of helps blaze that path. We've gone through so many challenges ourselves as investors, so hopefully as you're going through that journey, we can bring that kind of been there, done that, and help you out with the problem that you're having at the time. Who are we? So those of you who are new in this room, we're real estate investors ourselves. We've been doing it for a very long time. We have lots of personal holdings. Sam just sold a new property, so his personal holdings are higher now. We won a bunch of awards from RAIN, which is the Real Estate Investment Network. I don't know if you guys are familiar with RAIN. It's one of the largest real estate investing groups in Canada. And we do normal stuff. So we're also, we do the real estate investing side, but we do normal houses as well. Especially if you are kind of in the beginning of your investment journey, and you're looking at your principal residence, it's really important to make sure your principal residence is set up properly to help you on your real estate investment journey. It's going to be the house that's going to be easiest for you to get money out of. It's going to be the house where your rent's qualifying most for your mortgage. It's a very important tool. And so when you are looking at purchasing your principal residence and you're thinking about doing real estate investing in the future, make sure you're working with somebody who's investor focused. Ah, this is my house, it just came on the market. So I'm just showing you the pretty pictures of it. And lastly, we have a private group for all our clients. If I've missed anybody in this room who is one of our active clients right now, please reach out to me directly. I'll make sure you're added onto this. This is like the social support group. You know, some morning it's like, oh my God, there's a rat, what do I do? Or, oh my God, I'm having challenges with tenant, what do I do? And this group is really for our clients to help each other out. We also have these monthly coffee house chats, which are completely informal, no agenda. People hop on and basically ask questions. They're on hold right now because Matt usually conducts those, and he's got a 2-month-old, so he's taking care of that first. Next, thank you very much, Creeds. Thank you for hosting us here. They're great. Thank you. Great staff. Please support local business. Grab some food. Grab a drink. We also have our in-house ambassadors, Chris, and I don't think Flo's here.
She's on Uber.
She's Ubering. So we have 2 in-house ambassadors. They are good clients of ours who have graciously volunteered to pimp themselves out, and you can ask them questions. You know, don't just listen to us. You can ask them what their experience was like. You can ask them about their investment journey. Okay, I'm going to dive into my market minute now. This is kind of an update of what's happening in the Toronto real estate market. So, trend market data. If you guys have been paying attention to the headlines in the news, you've probably been seeing a whole bunch of headlines about Toronto sales up, you know, X%, like Toronto sales on fire. Or you have been seeing headlines about Toronto sales still depressed. It's one or the other. And kind of where that's coming from. I know, like, how can you have 2 different sets of headlines for the same data? But it's totally possible, right? It's like, how do you look at this data? So if you're looking at year over year, this is what the big headline about sales are up. So if you are in the camp of, hey, Toronto's market is going to be great, and you're an editor for a paper, and that's what you want to show, that's going to be your headline, right? Oh, Toronto sales are up year over year, up 37%. I can't remember the exact amount. But if you're in the negative camp, and if you ever want a guaranteed negative headline, go to, I think it's Better Dwelling. They're like 90% negative headlines. I guess that's what sells for them. They'll say like, oh, Toronto sales, you know, still at historical low. Yeah, sure. Because if you compare yourselves to, you know, 2016, 2017, we're still at historical lows. So what's kind of driving sales and prices? Because if you've seen, there's been a bunch of headlines around sales and prices. And what we're really seeing in Toronto is still very much a lack of inventory. So this is new listings that we're seeing on the market right now. And you see our new listings are still in line with like some of our, you know, most constrained years of 2016, 17, 18. There's like zero improvement here. If you're looking on MLS these days, you'll see like this whole neighborhood with only a handful of houses on sale. While this is great if you're on the owner's side, it's tough if you're on the buyer's side. It is taking a while for us to find, you know, quality properties that fit, you know, our investment criteria. How long do you think on average it takes right now before you're finding a house?
Taking a month, maybe closer to 2 right now.
Yeah, so about a month or 2 right now.
Supply is short.
Yeah. And so that's, you know, it's quite simply supply and demand right now, which is pushing out prices in many of these neighborhoods. And here we go. This is reflected in the average resale price. So you're seeing now, you know, the headlines about the increased pricing again on year over year. In general, Toronto is still under what we saw in 2017 highs, right? But I know you guys who are active in the market right now, this is not your reality. Like if you're looking to buy a house in like Dovercourt, Wallace Emerson, or Little Italy, or any of these like highly investable areas that we talk about, you're like, what are you talking about? We are way past what we saw. Wow, see, you hear my voice? That's how we're like way past what we saw in 2017. because this average really is blended of all of Toronto, so what do we like to do here? We like to drill down on our data, and so that's what we did. So looking at the downtown core, in what we like to refer to as kind of the investable areas. And for those of you who are new, the investable areas that we're looking at, when I was new to real estate investing, I thought, oh, best areas must be the best places to live, right? So maybe it's like a Yorkville, or maybe it's like a Young and Egg. That is not true, right? Your best investable areas are the areas that are still going through gentrification, so they're not quite really nice, but they're in the process of becoming nice. That are still transit accessible, that still support all the fundamentals for the tenant profiles that we're looking for, but aren't already on the other side of being really nice places. Those really nice places are expensive, and they don't make much sense as investments. The numbers just don't work out. So the places we talk about often, kind of W2, CO2, kind of a bit of WO3, into East York here, east of Pate, west of Maine, kind of along the Danforth subway line. Those are the kind of areas that we're talking about when we're talking about investable areas. And so, sorry, EO1 as well. Yeah, not around Wicklow Park, but too expensive, but on the east of there. And this is what we're seeing. So in the downtown core itself, we are seeing prices that have not only recovered from the dip in late 2017, early 2018, but have now exceeded that. If you're in, this W1's Parkdale, right? So if you're like Parkdale, you've done really well. And we have a couple of clients who have purchased homes out there. But many places in East York are fully recovered. And so this is the reality of what we're seeing in those highly investable areas. So what's bringing the average down? Everywhere else, right? Vaughan, Richmond Hill, Markham, Willowdale, these are the neighborhoods that are down and still haven't recovered. So this is the data that we're seeing. What we're using for this is the home price index. Are people familiar with the home price index? So home price index is not an average. The home price index tracks like-for-like properties. And that's really important, because if there's lots of sales of high-end luxury homes, that's going to make your average higher. If there are lots of sales of condos, that's going to make your average price lower. You want to compare a like-for-like product, so home price index tracks that. 3-bedroom, detached, and then tracks that. Or 2-bedroom condos, whatever that particular type of property is, home price index is tracking just those properties. So this actually gives us a good feeling of what's happening with 3- and 4-bedroom detached homes. And they're just not recovered. And they're not showing much signs of recovering either. It's still low and it's still staying. And of course, there's the condo market. And this is not, if you have to be under a rock for the last 2 years to not know what's happening in the Toronto condo market. For those who are new in the room, I've explained this a couple of times at previous meetups, but for those of you who are new, there's really two major pressures which are causing what we're seeing happening in the condo market. So one, which I'll call like kind of the upward pressure, so pushing people down, is the changes to mortgage qualification rules. So this happened, last year. And when the mortgage qualification rules changed, you were going from maybe buying, let's say, an $800,000 condo, now you're buying a $600,000 condo, because you can't qualify for as much. At the same time, affordability at the bottom end, demand, is eating up, all the cheap condos. So that floor of what you could buy is slowly creeping up. So you have kind of double pressure happening in the kind of condo market. Tons of demand coming in, pushing prices up, and then affordability changing and pushing people down. So everybody's getting squeezed into this band, and the only product that's in Toronto in that band are condos. Now, we're going to see this taper off at some point, and the metric that we keep track of to let us know kind of when this may happen is the delta between average condo price and average single-family home price. When this boom was really happening, you were seeing a delta of about 700K between the two types of properties. In the last year and a half, that delta's dropped down to now about 450K. Now, it's not like people are like, oh, I've got like an extra 450 in my back pocket, I'm gonna go buy a house. But what's happening is people are like, okay, if I'm gonna spend $800,000 on a 2-bedroom condo, maybe I do buy a house a little outside. You know, maybe I'm going to a grungier part of town so I can pick up an $800,000 home instead of buying a two-bedroom condo in the core. So that's when it starts to become a little bit more of a decision for people. And if we start to see that continue to trend down, then people are going to start to move to houses because it makes a little more sense. Any questions about that?
When you say a delta, what do you mean by a delta 700,000 or 450,000?
Yeah, sorry. So it's the delta between the average single-family home sale price and the average 2-bedroom condo sale price. Okay, so looking at then what's in the news. So here you go. This was the headline. Headline: single-family home sales jumped by 136% in Toronto. This is actually specific to new homes. This was published on information from BILD, B-I-L-D. It's a New Home Builders Association. But the thing I wanted to call out here was a remark made by the president of BILD, which is very true. The market has been artificially depressed because of some of the regulatory measures, but we're encouraged to still see strong demand. The market has been artificially depressed. So what he's saying in that sentence really is that the regulatory measures that came in, a lot of people thought, okay, when the regulatory measures come in, that's going to change the market. But it doesn't effectively change the market. What we've seen is it's kind of like a temporary measure to kind of quell the market a little bit, but it doesn't change the fundamentals of the market. The fundamentals of the market are still supply and demand at the end of the day. And unless you're doing something to fundamentally change supply, which is a little tough to do because supply is not exactly elastic. I can't snap my fingers and build tons of more homes. Or demand, which is also not particularly elastic. If I'm going to change demand, I need to change how is the Canadian economy doing. I need to change job growth in Toronto. I need to change immigration rules. Like that's what's driving the demand side. Unless you're actually changing those two elements, you're not fundamentally changing what's happening in the market. So that this is a great quote, and that's what I wanted to point out. I think not everybody understands that regulations, interest rates, some of these key things that we may think drive markets, unless they're driving supply and demand, are just influence the market. And the market will still continue on trudging, just like it has in this case. So next thing here, Bank of Canada rate cuts coming in October. And funnily enough, just before I got here, I got another headline flash across my phone. Bank of Canada rates going to remain the same. So you're getting both sides right now. The reason I brought this up though is a lot of people believe that interest rates fundamentally change the market. But if you look at a correlation of interest rates to housing activity, there's not a great correlation. Interest rates need to be on the extreme highs or the extreme lows to really make a difference onto the market. But what happens typically is rate cut happens. Great, people rush out, they buy homes, they get qualified on the new rates, and then it settles back down. Or they think a rate hike is coming. People rush out, they buy homes, they get qualified, rate hike happens, market slows down for a little bit, and then people adjust, right? And it just goes back to whatever it was at. So, as investors, if we see, a rate cut happening, what do? We don't rush out. Just make sure we get a variable rate mortgage, right? Like if we see that, if we think that it's that the rates are going to be coming down. The Ontario line. Everybody in this room familiar with the Ontario line? Good, you should be. one of the most important things as real estate investors that we care about is public transit, right? Especially because, we're renting most of the time. The target demographic of renters, which are our millennial target market, they're not regular car drivers anymore, right? Especially here in Toronto, most people are taking public transit, or maybe they're grabbing an Uber occasionally. But access to public transit is extremely important. So whenever we see an infrastructure project happening, for us as investors, we want to keep a super close eye to it. So, in particular, when the Ontario line came out, there's a couple of things that we care about. So, first of all, where's it running? And this has kind of changed quite drastically from the original plans that the City of Toronto had come out with for the downtown relief line. We're extending a lot further north now, up into Eglinton, and we're extending a lot further west past Queen. So that's one thing, like where is it going? The other things that we care about, and that kind of go a little beyond just where is this line running, are what is this line going to be like? So the next one is it above or below grade? Am I interested in buying a investment property that is near above grade mass transit? Probably not. It's going to be really noisy. Above grade kind of sucks, but it is a lot faster. It looks like we'll be able to roll out the project more quickly. But as an investor, I probably don't want to buy near above grade transit. I want to maybe buy near it, but I don't want to buy right, along the line. Right? So when we're looking at this, it's really important to understand what's going to be below grade and kind of what's going to be above grade in our purchasing decisions if we're looking at taking advantage of what's happening in the Ontario line. When do we buy? Does anybody know the answer to this? So this has been announced by the government. When's the right time to jump in now? Today.
Well, there are shovels in the ground.
Shovels in the ground. That's because you've been here before. So yeah. And the reason we say shovels in the ground is because how reliable is your government? How many times have they told you, hey, I promise you I'm going to do X, Y, Z, and they actually do it, and they do it on time, and they do it on budget? I've never experienced a government like that. So we don't put our hard-earned money until ground is actually broken, because at that point it's pretty hard for them to back out of a project, right? They've started the crosstown, the work on crosstown. They're not going to go fill up those holes now. They're going to continue and finish up what they've started. So that's when we wait. You could buy earlier, but it's speculating. Right? You're speculating because you're hoping that the government does what they say they do. And if you were at the bottom part of the relief line, which was actually supposed to cut across here, well, now it's changed, right? They're not going to build here anymore. So now you're not close to that transit anymore. So this is a great example of buy once shovels are in the ground, and they're really committed to doing this plan. How far to buy from the station? Does anybody know the answer to this?
800 meters?
Sorry?
800 meters?
800 meters. In Toronto, we can go up to about a kilometer, because we like to walk a little more. But yeah, that's kind of the general rule. As you start to get past a kilometer from the station, you'll see prices drop off, you'll see rents drop off, and you're not going to get that same premium tenant as you would if you're a lot closer to the station. You don't want to buy super close to the station because then you get noise from the subway or noise from above, but you don't want to buy more than about 800 to 1,000 meters away. Next question for us is how many people are affected. We want to understand not only, where this is going, but what is the radius of people impacted, and how does it compare to some of the other lines? So I know that this is actually going to be a pretty accessible subway line. It's going to reach about 150,000 people. So that's a lot of properties, a lot of potential for us to look at along this line here. But not all 150,000 people are created equal. We were very interested in the tenant profiles as well. What kind of tenants are going to live along this section or along this section? What are the neighborhoods like? we don't want to throw away all our fundamentals because there's a new carrot being dangled in front of us. We have to make sure that we still care about, are we attracting the tenant profile that we're after, right? So is it a neighborhood going through gentrification? Is it attractive to millennials? Is it, is it near public transit? Are there shops? Are there restaurants? Because if I'm not attracting the right tenant profile, none of this really matters. You've still got to deal with crappy tenants, right? You still want a great tenant profile at the end of the day. That's what keeps your business running. Any questions? No. Everybody's really quiet today. I'll hand it over to you to do the legislation.
All right, sure. It's not my phone.
I think so.
Yeah, okay. So in Ming's lights, I know he's been talking about how the market has been going out of the world, right? It's been going up nonstop in Toronto, and we're seeing areas here where it's like 10 to 11% growth since 2018 alone. So in that, like, what kind of properties would fit, I guess, most budgets? It's okay?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Speak up.
Okay, try to put it closer. So for the past few meetups, we've been kind of advertising a lot of renovation projects, which requires a huge budget, around 700K to 800K. And I know that is not actually available for most people. So today I just want to bring up a project or an acquisition that we did recently, which actually works. And Toronto is not only an appreciation market. If you find the right property, a turnkey property can actually cash flow you quite well. And we target areas, like being said, that are up and coming. So not only does the rent support the areas, but we believe those areas will become the next hub. So if you don't mind there. So recently in June, we acquired property around the $1.4 million range. So most of our properties that we're acquiring right now this year has been multifamily homes. The reason for that is because condo markets and pre-cons on this set of certain prices, $1,300, $1,500, up to $2,000 a square feet. For an investor, that's not feasible. We'll never see the rents. We won't see the rents increase at that level. Even at 10% a year, you might be able to get that kind of return, but we don't expect that. Even though we have been seeing it for the past 10 years, an average 10% yearly, we're expecting, we do our calculations based on 5% appreciation a year. So this property that we purchased near Wallace Emerson was purchased for 1.415 Eagle triplex. The monthly expenses we calculated to be around $860. Mortgage for $4,900 at 3.2%, 30-year amortization. And our rents, should I done the math at the time? It's $7,300. So our rough cash flow after all expenses and mortgage payments is $1,600.
So I just want to jump in because this is like,
It's just a property. Yeah, it's amazing. How do we find these properties?
yeah, how do you find them? I want one.
No, I think the way we look at property is a little bit different than most agents. And we try to look at a property on what is the potential of the property itself, how we can actually improve the rents after acquisition, and also even a property that is listed above asking, for example, how can we negotiate to and also acquire the property at a much lower cost to increase your ROI. This ROI is obviously, we do have a calculation for it. If anyone is interested, I can provide you with a spreadsheet afterwards. But it's all based on very reasonable appreciation numbers, I think 5%, 2% rental appreciation yearly.
Yeah, when we do our modeling, we're not like,
Using 10%.
we're not like saying Toronto market's going up 10%. We're not doing stupid stuff. Like, take a look at our spreadsheets.
Yeah.
The numbers are reasonable.
Yeah,
So this is like, these are real returns
Yeah.
that you're getting.
And the reason why we like this area so much is because it's close to transit. This area has grew significantly, and that's mainly due to a few factors. One, a lot of Toronto has become out of most people's price range. Like Little Italy right now, a nice home will cost you over $2 million. And 1.6, you might be able to find a semi for 1.6 these days. That's like a good size. But Little Portugal is the same thing. This area has been more or less untouched and not viewed as highly by a lot of investors until now. And the reason is because of two huge revitalization projects going on.
Sorry, I still.
It's okay. So I'm not sure if you guys heard about these two projects, but Galleria on the Park and Dufferin Grove. This project right here, I believe 3,000 new condo units are going to be 2,800, 2,900. This one, I think 7 towers, right, Finish?
Yeah.
Roughly 7 towers.
So like when we talk about buying in areas of gentrification,
Yeah.
like this is exactly what we're talking about. 2 years ago we were saying like Regent Park, because it was being master planned, master redone by the city, and that was just a right place to buy. We didn't say buy homes there because they're still not very nice. But the condo developments have majorly changed. You're talking about homes that have gone up about 50% in value during that time. Yes, part of it is crazy Toronto market, but the big part is that it was crappy, and now it's nice. It's like, it's not super genius. We know these are coming. You get the plans that are coming out from the city, so you have lots of time to react to them.
Yeah.
This is the kind of stuff we care about.
Yeah, exactly. And when we see this, is we see a big deal. We see an opportunity to invest long term. None of our holdings are going to be for short term anyways. Over 5-10 years, your property is going to be worth significant amounts, especially after these areas do get gentrified. The numbers already work very well for rents. Like if you actually go right here, a 2-bedroom renting out for $2,500 is very, very close to downtown core. Condos, what, renting out for around $3,000 average for a 2-bedroom? 3,100.
It's getting crazy.
Condo fees and everything else, this is very similar. So when we look at properties right now in Toronto, we're looking at areas where there's a lot of potential for growth. Not only areas that are established, this area established, everyone knows. Buy there, your property will go up in value. But areas in Toronto that has not been as well established, we try to keep a tab on that. So when we do buy, it'll be a good investment in the near future for our future.
The thing is, you're getting like, this, we're not selling something. This is not.
Yeah, this
is already sold.
It's already closed.
it's already done. But these are the kind of things that work with us, work with whoever. This is the kind of things you really should care about, because not only are you getting, seven grand plus in rents, you're getting a good tenant profile, right? You're getting a Toronto young professional, like somebody who's university educated, 65 to 85K a year in income, works in downtown consulting, finance, whatever it happens to be. Like this is our core tenant profile. You're not dealing with, somebody who is, struggling to make their rent payments, who's, jumping from job to job. This is just not the kind of tenant profile that you're going after when you're buying these kind of properties in Toronto, right?
It does more work at that point than actually a passive investment. Our goal right here, I'm guessing everyone's goal right here today is we want to find something which will bring in money passively without having to put too much work into it.
Like I started in student rentals, right? I still have some student rentals, but I started investing in Waterloo. I grew my portfolio out there. But one thing I didn't quite understand, when I was first real estate investing, was I was so focused on cash flow, like cash flow. And I didn't understand that cash flow is a function of risk. And that's something that, if I could go back and talk to myself 10 years ago, I would have beat myself over the head with that, because there's so much that's not told in higher cash flow returns, right? Maybe it's tenant profile. Maybe it's harder to rent, right? Do you guys know what capitalization rate is, cap rate? Right, so a cap rate is a way of, pricing a property. Cap rates in Toronto are lower than cap rates in, I don't know, Timbuktu. But there's a reason. It's a function of risk. If you're investing in a city that has, single industry, right, or is, an offshoot of the city, when the economy slows down, those places are hurt more, right? If you're in Windsor and you get affected by what's happened in Detroit, there is no other industry to pick them up there. When you're in a city like Toronto, you've got multiple industries. This is the financial hub of Canada. It takes quite a bit to bring down the financial hub of Canada.
I
right?
think more so than that, it's actually a tech hub now too.
Yeah, exactly. It's a tech hub too. You
We
go
have
along.
headquarters of every major industry
Yeah.
coming down here to, downtown core. Microsoft just moved, Google's moved their head office.
And this is why we're so passionate about the city, because we've been there, done that. Like, we have had investments in Waterloo, Hamilton, Sudbury, Edmonton. I know I'm missing some others, but we've invested everywhere. There's a reason we've chosen to come back to the city, is because you can still get good returns with a good tenant profile. And that's like the big thing. It's like actually getting a good tenant profile. Because if you've had bad tenants before, I don't know how many of you are current investors, but if you've had bad tenants before, it's an absolute nightmare. Laws in Ontario just are not, they're heavily skewed towards the tenant. They're not balanced, right? So if somebody doesn't pay, or if somebody's causing problems in your house, it can take months. The last bad tenant that I had inherited during the purchase took me 6 months to get them evicted. I had to get to the point of having a sheriff there to kick them out. They didn't pay a single penny during that entire time, and I never got my money back. And that's like, I would have never picked that tenant myself. I inherited them. They were supposed to leave when I bought the house, but they squatted. So even the squatter, it took me 6 months to get rid of. This is why I'm saying, like, if you, there's so much behind having a bad tenant. Sorry.
Sure. Oh, no, absolutely. And yeah, I think that was basically it. It's just saying that there are still opportunities in Toronto. You just have to know where to look, what kind of properties to review. And I'm not trying to sell anything, but that's what we're here for. Sorry, question.
So you said you bought that triplex turnkey, or did you buy it and then you?
I mean, it was like maybe like 5,000 bedrooms. Yeah.
And then you bring
So
your own
amazing.
tenants in there?
Yes, we would. Yeah.
Yes.
Just break down that monthly expenses.
So 3-bedroom upper floors. Every unit has parking. There's 4 parking spots.
The expenses
Oh, so insurance, gas, water, property tax are the main ones.
utilities are paid by.
Yes, because it's a legal triplex, it does have to be separate hydro meters, and it would be part of the rent. I would not be part of the rent, sorry, it would be part of your own
Repairs, do
expenses.
you have any allowance?
I mean, if you really want, you can take 4% off of the total rent. It's, we didn't actually include that, but. If you
No.
wanted-
So just to speak a bit about management. So one of the things that we don't do as much in our analysis here is management. A couple of reasons. Other than our own hired property managers, we've never had great experience with property management. Property management seems to go through this cycle, where in the beginning, they're really good because they've got your attention, they're looking to earn business. Then they get to a certain amount of success, and it's almost like because they're successful, they become less reliable. They now spread thin, and then their quality starts to drop. And I've tried to hire property management probably about 4 different times now, and I've never had success with it. That's why we have our own in-house property management now. Somebody on our dime that I can say exactly how I want to run. It's the core of your business, and we don't like giving that up, and we don't really encourage our investors. Buy the right property, get the right tenants in there. It's not that much work. That's number one, right? Don't try making it up with property management, having a bad tenant and a crappy house in the wrong place, right? Because then that cycle's endless, right? You're always managing the property. If you've got a good tenant in there and you've got the right property, the amount of management is way less. So it's been maybe a bit of a long-winded answer to your question, but that's kind of how we try to look at it.
On average, can you say how many investors would typically go in on like an investment like this? For like 1.4
This was
million?
one.
This is just one.
There's reasons why you sometimes don't want to, sometimes you don't want to,
Right.
sometimes you don't want to. It really depends on your situation.
So how many investors could it have?
As many as you want. It just gets more and more complicated.
Right.
And sometimes people think bringing in more people makes it better. It doesn't. Like, I see heads shaking here. People who have tried to do joint ventures and stuff like that before. I mean, joint ventures can be a wonderful thing, but they are not a simplistic thing.
I'll tell you guys right now too. I brought this example up because the cash flow is great. it shows well on the slide, especially in Toronto. We'll never see great positive cash flow like this. We usually see closer to zero, right? However, Toronto is an appreciation market. Property values go up at significant rates. Like this property last year was at least 10% less. Why? We have few speculative reasons, but you know, we're not going to dwell too deep into that. But our depreciation is where you're going to see the highest returns at. Even if I reduce this to like $1,000 or even $500, you'll still see that the year one ROI is going to be significant. It's going to be still very significant, closer to maybe like 30%, 31% versus the 35%.
What was the down payment amount?
20%.
So the unit 3 is that a basement?
Yes. It's 2 bedrooms, 1900.
So the main floor and second. The unit 1 and 2.
Unit 1 is second floor, upper floors. Unit 2 is main floor. Unit 3 is basement.
So these were a single family home which got converted to a multi.
Correct. Right. So we do some of the conversions ourselves. This one was not one of them. The conversions that we do ourselves, we can see a lot higher rents. One of them, which just sold, was estimated to be over $9,000 in rent for a multi-family home within the same number of bedrooms. The other one we're working on is around 86, 87.
So what's the square feet?
To be honest, this was like maybe too much. Maybe around like 1,800, 2,000. Yeah.
Is there a question about?
Maybe.
Sorry, first off here, really good information. Really appreciate it. I'm an investor, so this was a bit new to me, but maybe a quick question. What would your property tax or something like this?
400 a month.
Sorry?
400 a month.
Okay, and is it higher or lower for multiple units, or is it not?
It gets higher as units increase.
And then follow up to that is, so it's 3 units, but it's like 2 bedrooms, so like, does it fall into residential financing or commercial?
Residential.
Yeah, so commercial kind of has to be 5-plex. That's kind of where you start to see it.
Right. So
So
in this case, they treat them 3 units.
this is regular residential
Yeah,
financing.
because 3 units, not
Yeah.
Yes.
It's obviously the more money you put into investment, the higher your returns are. Condos are usually an entry for most investors. The reason that we have stepped away a lot from condo investments, like I think May was talking about it before, was that last year a lot of sales were happening in the Regent Park area, even among our clients. But this year, it's just the prices have gone up to quite a high level.
There's no like, this is, so like, if anybody is like, oh, this is the best investment, they're wrong. Because there is no best investment. It is like what works in this particular market at this particular point in time with these kind of lending rules
And your portfolio.
and your portfolio. So like 2 years ago, what really made sense were some of these pre-construction condos because we knew this was like an opportunity. I would not tell you to go buy a 2-bedroom condo now in Regent Park. One just sold for over $1 million and made headlines, right? Like that, don't do it, right?
So I mean, it's just that previously condo markets didn't make sense. This year, only 1 or 2 projects make sense,
Yeah.
and that's why like we don't advertise pre-cons like every other agent. But you don't see us posting on our meetup groups. We do advertise 1 or 2 when we find actually the numbers make sense rental wise and the value. But that's how we look at it. So they're
Cool, let's
Yeah,
keep
right.
going through. Thanks, Ed. So all the stuff we talked about is on our website. If you ever want to look at some of the pre-analyzed properties, we do throw them up on the website. Most of them, by the time they're on our website, though, we've sold to a client. But you get to see kind of the properties that we are working on with people. There's a calculator on there, shows fully how we get to those numbers. We're not trying to hide behind any of that stuff. That's calculator. Okay. Main event. So I want to welcome to the stage Daniel Hall. He's the founding principal of the Architects Builders Collaborative. Super knowledgeable man. I've had many conversations with Daniel, not just about Laneway Housing, but we've talked about, you know, we happen to have a mutual friend converting a mill into a home, green housing projects, This man is super knowledgeable, and we're very blessed to have you here tonight to talk to us about Laneway Housing. So please give a warm welcome to Daniel Hall.
Thanks, Ming. Denver and the delicious crowd. I'm very glad to be here. It's a fantastic turnout. As Ming mentioned, cue up the start there. He asked me to come and speak to you tonight about Laneway Housing specifically. We'll touch on a few other things, but it's a passion of mine and an area of a lot of our research lately. Just a little bit about who I am. I'm a licensed architect, been doing this since 2009. Lead AP, accredited professional, and passionate about green building, which goes back to my days as a woodworker and a carpenter, a red seal carpenter, for those who are familiar with the trades, licensed across Canada. Did that for about 15 years before I figured out that if I wanted to grow old gracefully in my job, I better do something that isn't so hard on my joints, and went back to school, studied architecture. When I got out of school, we worked on this quirky little project, which was a totally off-grid, eco-friendly, affordable house. So I've been working in the area of making great green buildings in some level since I started apprenticing in 1985, and really intensely in the last 10 years with the Architect Builders Collaborative. This is some of our crew. We are based in Regent Park. We're part of the Center for Social Innovation, the original CSI. We're on the top floor of the Daniels building, not named after me, but it's great for people finding where I am. In Regent Park, it is a fantastic neighborhood. Been watching it grow and develop around, and the transformation of city building that's going on there. People in the space, lots of different organizations working with the community, from circus arts to growing food to keeping kids out of the criminal justice system, and all sorts of stuff going on there. This is part of our team here, senior management, myself, and Salvador Altamirano, and some of our staff in our office. Very much an open concept green office. We're all about green design, which I guess it means so many things to people. So explain for us, it's about healthy, beautiful places. When I walk in the door, when I come home, I want to feel, it's nice to be home. That could be the light, it could be the air, it could be any number of things. Sound economics. I want a house that's easy to take care of, that's maintained, very durable. When you're looking from an investment perspective, that's my pitch to you to go green. If you're going to buy and hold your property, you want something that's going to be long-term sustainable for you. So there's a really good case for durable choices, sound materials, not throwaway things. And the social impact. Where's our material coming from? Is the wood from a rainforest in the Amazon? Is it from a small woodlot in Quebec and Ontario supporting local jobs, who in turn will be your tenants? So these are the things we think about. We've been making small houses. This debuted at the National Home Show in 2006, was featured in the Owen Home magazine at the time. When we toured people through the National Home Show, I'd like to ask them as they left, kind of like guessing the jelly beans in the jar, how many square feet do you think this is? And you could tell the people who were familiar with walking through condo sales centers and investors, 400, 450. Some people said 700, which was crazy. This was 354 square feet. It had 2 bedrooms in it. It was pretty cool. Off-grid, solar-powered, composting toilet. And the kicker, my partner's wife insisted we put in a full bathtub, not a shower. She said, you want people to live in this, put in a bathtub. They should know they lived in a converted bread van for 2 years while they did his degree at UBC, driving from park to park until they got full to move on. So this was luxury. Laneway Housing. If you're following the news and getting Ming's minute and the update, you would have heard a lot about it in the last couple of years. Lots of headlines. It's been legalized in Toronto for about a year now, since August 2018. It's not the same as what's in Calgary and Vancouver and Ottawa, but it is a big change. And to touch on what Ming spoke about not changing the fundamentals of the market, this is small, but it could be really big because this could change housing supply in the city. We can significantly increase housing supply without building condo towers and do it on the land that you already own. So for us, this is really, really exciting. Why would you build one? Well, income property, obviously, we're talking about here. Student housing. Maybe that's your own students. We have an 18-year-old daughter who's just heading off to college next week, and she's fortunately living at home. But you can imagine if we were paying rent in Toronto, what a kicker that is. Multi-generational housing. Maybe it's a place for your parents to move into. As a friend of mine said, in Sweden, where his wife's from, they call it doggy housing. I took his bait. I said, why? He said, it's because it's where we go to live when we get old and doggy. It's the house behind the house. Aging in place, it may be your spot to move into, rent out the main house and go travel. So we see all of these reasons in our clients, but I'm going to focus tonight a little more on the income property side. These are some of the questions we'll cover off. I know a lot of you will have questions. Feel free, raise your hand. It may be something I'm going to come to, and I'll say we'll get to that, but I'm happy to take questions. If you have one and are willing to speak, probably 3 other people have it and are too shy to ask. So don't be shy. Speak up. Question?
What's the process of doing this? What is the process of doing it? How long?
To produce a Laneway house?
Yeah.
Well, the answer will be it depends on how you build it and if it's as of right or not. And as of right, modular home build, 4 to 6 months. Committee adjustment, stick build, 12 to 18 months. So we could talk about specifics. If you have questions about a very specific site or question, you can also speak to me afterwards.
Would you be able to come to my site and see it?
Get to that right at the end. Yes, we do. I've been told by Ming, we don't sell anything here. It's my one and only pitch is yes, we will come and consult for you. Absolutely, as architects, that's what we do.
Yeah, at the end, we'll talk about, Daniel has actually a really great offer for our members, so.
What are some of the differences between the Toronto housing and the ones that we have in Calgary and Vancouver?
So Vancouver is the one I know more about, and it's been around the longest, I think over a dozen years now. Several hundred homes built. One of the biggest differences, Vancouver is really a little house behind a house, and they require a minimum lot width of 35 feet. So how many people here who own properties in downtown Toronto have a lot 35 feet wide? Anybody? How many have a lot 15 feet or 16 feet wide or wider? Show of hands? Yeah, exactly. That's one of the big differences.
I think if you have a lot over 20 feet, they call it a manor here.
Yeah, exactly. So in Vancouver, they require side yard setbacks of about 4 feet, so they really are little houses designed like cottages. A lot of design guidelines that we tend not have so much in Ontario. Here you can go lot line to lot line, and I'll get into the details of that. So what we're proposing in Toronto is a much denser form, and it's suiting the character of our laneways, which are very different than what cities like Vancouver have. Ottawa's gone what they call coach house route, so they have houses behind houses where there isn't a laneway. Toronto hasn't got there yet. Council has given staff direction to study that. They call them garden suites. The last I spoke with the planner who was in charge of the laneway file, he said no one in his department has been asked to do it yet. It's been a year since council told them. Nobody's been assigned the job, so you get the sense it's going to be a while. So what are the rules? What makes Toronto different from Vancouver or Ottawa? So this might sound obvious, but you have to actually abut on a laneway. I couldn't tell you how many questions I get about, I have a house and it's like a laneway. Okay, there may be something we can do with it, but that's going to be called a garden suite. If it's a public lane, this map may be hard to see, all the green on this map, these are the laneways in the city of Toronto. And you have to have 3.5 meters up against the laneway. You can't just be a tiny little piece. That's not that hard. So that's where we start.
Sorry, just clarifying that. 3.5 meters from the edge of the laneway?
So
Like where- reference the laneway.
your property has to touch the boundary of the laneway for at least 3.5 meters in length.
Gotcha.
So typical, if you have a 5-meter wide lot and there's a lane right across the back, you have 5 meters of abutment. I've seen some where they're on a corner of a lane, but I have yet to look at one that didn't actually meet the 3.5 meters. But they must be out there or they wouldn't have made the rule. So that's the starting point, be on a lane. That's really good. But then there's a really, really key one, and this is a deal breaker for so many properties, is buried in the building code, there's a provision that says you must provide adequate access for firefighting. Fair enough. When you go to get your building permit, you may think everything else is fine unless they say, sorry, it's not adequate. You go, well, says who? Well, the city internally has developed a policy that says we can provide access for emergency services in one of two different ways. We can have a 1 meter wide, 2.1 meter high space you can walk through. Everything's in metric at the city. That's a little over 3 feet by 7 feet. Way up the side of your house. So this is an area, Cape Avenue, Austin, Paris, I believe it's called here. This property has 1 meter, so they get to build a Laneway house there. They're good. Or, Toronto Fire is prepared to run a hose from the street up to 45 meters up the laneway to get to the door of the Laneway house to rescue you, put the fire out. And they've made a very good point, is this is not a garage. People are living there, so we're going to be really particular about this. So here, 45 meters, we get up to here. So these guys are good. Come up this little laneway. These guys are all good. This one, they're at the end of the 45 meters. This one, they're out of luck. They don't have 1 meter, and they're more than 45 meters in the laneway. So it gets very particular, but it's something to look at, particularly if you're looking at a property to say, if I'm looking at investing in this, could I also put in a laneway suite? So this is a really, really important consideration to look at. There may be exceptions, but the process involves appealing a decision, likely to the Building Code Commission. It's not out of the question, but it's increased risk. Question?
Does the 24 parcel, is that like the 1 meter is given to the 24 parcel because that's the lot line?
Yes, 1 meter between the house and the lot line.
So why doesn't it, like why can't the 20 use the 1 meter?
Good question. Sometimes, I knew you were going to ask this. Sometimes you can share. This is pretty typical Toronto situation. They have about 5 feet between the houses. Each one of them has, well, 3.67, what is it? Anyways, they have about half of that each. So between their two properties, collectively, they have enough. And people have used this historically as shared access to the backyard. There's their fence line there. On paper, that doesn't exist. It's just their lot line. So there's nothing to stop you building your fence. You own this house right down the middle, telling your neighbor, I don't care. People haven't done that in the past. So there is a provision. If you can put this on paper, you can get an easement on your title, like you would have if you had a mutual driveway. Then you can both benefit and go to the city and say, we have our 1 meter. The key is that easement, that right of way, is the guarantee to Toronto Fire that nobody's going to stick a fence or a gate down it. And when they arrive with their trucks, they can run down there and not be blocked by someone's air conditioning unit or whatever is being dropped in that space. So again, you understand the reason behind it. This process involves up-to-date surveys of both properties, what they call a draft reference plan, going to committee of adjustment to create a new easement for each of you. $5,800 fee per property to go. Register the easement on title, have your lawyers involved. Like some real estate, it's uncontested, you can double end the deal with the same law firm. And having someone to help you take it through the process. We work with a lawyer, we work with a surveyor, we put some numbers together. We think it's roughly a 20K proposition to do this. It's a lot of money. On the other hand, if 20K, 10K each unlocks the potential of building a house behind your house, it's a drop in the bucket. So that's an option for you. Again, if you could buy both properties, go for it. If you're only buying one, you better talk to your neighbor. There are lots of laneways in the city. This is why we're excited about it. Over 300 kilometers, over 49,000 properties that have bought laneways in Toronto. It's a big deal. Most of them are in former down city of Toronto and East York, about 45,000 or so of those. The rest are scattered around the city in little pockets in Etobicoke and a few neighborhoods like that. But how many lots are really eligible? The city hasn't done the math. They said it's too much to count. So we had our staff do a representative area in Seton Village, do a quick application of those rules. These are all the laneways, these are all the laneways, these are all the laneways. the pink ones meet those rules for fire access. So that really is the fundamental decision tree. Graphically, I would say about 15% of them. So even if we're off and it's 20%, there's maybe 8 or 10,000 properties out there in the city that this could happen with. That's 8 or 10,000 new apartments. That's like 2 of the developments going on at Burbage Village right now, scattered around behind people's houses that everyone can be a part of. That's why I say this could change supply in the city. 2 questions? You?
Sorry, I'm saying 8,000 out of the 49,000 that are roughly eligible?
Our guess entirely based on a graphic, of a graphic analysis. We're not prepared to invest the hundreds of hours of staff time either, we'll find out. But Coalition, who likes to crunch numbers, on the other hand, might want to take a look at this.
That's based on fire hydrant positioning, or is that based on the space between houses?
It's the 1 meter plus the 45 meter. Hydrant is a good point. I haven't covered that there. There is a secondary rule that says in addition to the 45 meters, the hydrant has to be within 90. So another 45 from the truck to the hydrant. Most of Toronto, that's not a problem. Hydrants are pretty close. But yes, it is something you would want to check to be sure you can do it. 45 to the curb, no more than 90 to the hydrant, measured from the doorway of your laneway suite. So you got to figure out where that doorway is going to be. If you can get the 1 meter up the side of your house, it's way easier. But really hard in Toronto because side yard setbacks are not 1 meter. They're either 450 millimeters or 900, neither of which adds up to a meter. So it's something to watch out for, and they are really strict. I've had friends who've taken in applications for their clients at 96 centimeters and been rejected. So you want to have the 1.0 meter on your survey, be sure. So what is a laneway suite in Toronto? This is unlike Ottawa, Montreal, Vancouver. 6 images here. Anyone want to take a guess? I'll give you a hint. 3 of them count as laneway suites. 3 of them don't. Any takers on the top row? Which ones would be a laneway suite in Toronto?
Top right.
Top right, yes. Good guess. Anyone else? This one, the laneway suite? No. This one? Yep. This one? No. This one? That one? No way. The hint, the 3 that would be, are all renderings of our designs that haven't been built yet. The 3 that have been built before this bylaw came into place, none of them would be covered by the bylaw. So a lot of what's been done in the last 20 years, mostly architect driven by my colleagues, often on our own behalf because we're able to push it through the process, have been really arduous process. They've gone to the OMB. They are not what the city is envisioning. The city is envisioning something a little smaller than this with all sorts of rules, which I'm going to run through now. So a lot of what we see and go, great, that's going to be everywhere like this, that's actually not what we're getting.
Is that middle one like an off-grid one, like the original or something?
This one?
Yeah.
No, this is one that my friends Andre and Megan at Super Cool did. It's in Toronto. It's
Well, why doesn't it count?
too tall, no setbacks,
Oh, I see.
too dense. So there are rules around size and shape. You can go up to 2 stories with a 6 meter maximum height. Here. You have to be away from your main house on the property at least 7.5 meters. I see a lot of people taking notes, which is great, you can. I'd be really glad to share slides, but we also have a guide available on our website with all of this stuff on, you can download for free. But you can email me and I'll just send you the slides too if you want.
We do, I forgot to ask you, but we typically put them up on our website, just post about evenings.
Absolutely, yeah, no problem. So, if it's 2-story, you need to be 7.5 meters away from the house. And then there's this funny little angular plane rule, which says, from that 7.5 meter, we go up with an abstract line in space 4 meters high, and then we go off at a 45-degree angle away from your house, and say you cannot build in that zone. It's a keep-out zone. You can put a small dormer window, there's a couple of exceptions. But basically it's to provide some setback from the house.
So just make sure the light is coming through.
Light and air, we're actually not sure why, and amongst the community of us who are passionate about laneways, we think the city's gonna nix this when they do their review next year.
Yeah, this seems a little strange. I remember going through apartments where like all the proposed designs had this like slanted design.
But what's interesting is it's a keep out zone based on this 7.5 meter. And then up 4, so the 2 is the extra 2 over. So if you can go 9.5 meters over, you don't need to worry about an angled plane. You can have a square back edge if you're 9.5 meters from the house. So that's a deep lot.
So that's really key that, so, you know, as you're searching for properties, lot depth becomes really key.
Absolutely, yeah, definitely. So there's the minimum 7.5 meter separation that you need. Your maximum depth is also limited, 10 meters, 32.5 feet for those who like feet and inches better. And try to be bilingual. And you can go the full width of your lot, zero setback. You do have to step back from the lane. This is another one we think may get subject to review, but at the moment it says 1.5 meters or 5 feet back from the lane. To put that in context, if you went and built a garage today under most zoning bylaws in Toronto, you need 1 meter setback, not 1.5. And historically, a lot of them were built with less. So most existing buildings don't have this, and it's about allowing a little more breathing room on the lane. But again, our internal betting is that when this comes up for review, that's going to drop to 1, and this may disappear. But we think most of the rest of the rules will survive.
So with zero setback on sides.
Side to side, 0 setback, meaning you can build right tight to your lot line. There are logistical issues with doing that. You have to actually be able to build it.
Right. Are there special fire provisions then, since you're like gates?
So there are rules, they're not specific to laneways, it's building code provision. Whenever you're within 4 feet or less of a lot line, there are degrees of rules about non-combustibility and fire. When you're on a 0 lot line, it's a non-combustible wall. Essentially, we will build out of a concrete block, steel studs, something like that. No matter how wide your property is, so if you're one of those lucky ones, nobody here had the 35-foot wide lot, but if you did, you're still limited at 8 meters. So we're looking at one up in North Toronto, that little ton around Young and Lawrence, there's some laneways up there. 35-foot wide lot, I'm looking at one right now with someone. So they can have 8 meters wide, which is about 25 feet, and still have room for a parking pad beside the laneway suite. So you're limited, although it's not much. 8 meters by 10 meters, that's 80 square meters, 2 stories high. So we're talking about 160 meters, 1,750 square feet, 2-story house. That's what you're allowed to build. There is a proviso. The gross floor area, that 1,750 square feet, cannot be more than the gross floor area of the main house. So we're looking at one right now where we have a 1-story main house that's about 1,300 feet and a massive backyard. If we don't want to go to committee of adjustment, we're only building 1,300 square feet on the laneway suite.
Sir, what was the percentage?
So
Okay.
you cannot, your total square footage, floor area of your laneway suite cannot exceed that of the main house.
Oh, just
So if you have a little house, little laneway suite, big house, big laneway suite. I'm not sure why it kind of penalizes someone who's got a small bungalow and wants to redevelop back here. I'm not sure the logic of it. A couple of questions, starting in the back.
Are there any rules about excavating and digging down?
No, you can build a basement.
expensive, I
I
know.
would question why for various practical reasons.
No, for sure.
It may make sense in some places.
Yeah.
The property I mentioned, that's 35 feet wide, that's not the problem.
Yeah.
If you have 2 50-year-old garages, one on either side of you as the neighbors, and you try to dig down, they're gonna fall in. So,
Yeah,
it may not make sense, but yes, you can, there's no rule against it.
What servicing do you
I'm gonna get to that in a few minutes. That's a really good topic.
Is there any rules around the garage, like the homeowner, landlord keep the garage? Does-
Yeah, I'm coming to that too, so if I don't get to it, come back, I'm definitely, it's stuff we're talking about.
If you did dig in the basement, would that count as square footage?
Yes, it does. It's exempt in a principal dwelling, it's not exempt in a laneway house. I was at committee of adjustment this morning, and just in front of me, one of my friends, Craig Race, was going to committee for exactly that. An existing building with a basement under it that they were converting to a Laneway suite. And they were going because of the increased GFA, it was bigger than the house. So, it counts. Yeah, I don't know why, because it doesn't in your main house, but actually the way the bylaw is written, you count it and then you get an exemption for it. And they haven't put that in the Laneway part. I think because no one thought anyone would do it.
Did he get a positive outcome on his,
He did, and he told me the first of three, he's gone 3 times to committee, and the first 2 he got shot down for 2 other projects. Yeah, it was disappointing, because Craig actually pioneered all of this. He led the way with lobbying to get Laneway suites.
is he from landscape?
That's his company. Yes. So you can also build 1-story. From an investment potential, you may say why, but if you're looking for accessibility, mobility issues, fully accessible at-ground suite, perfect, whether it's for yourselves, it's for an aging parent. So they're definitely getting lots of interest in it for those reasons. Or you may be in that position where you just have a small house, so you can't build a big Laneway house. So the same rules apply, 8 meter wide, 10 meter deep, 1.5 meter setback from the lane. 4 meters high is what they call a 1-story. So if you're 4 meters high or less, you only need to be 5 meters away from the main house. So another reason you might do it is a very small lot. And I looked at one of that for one of you who's here tonight, where exactly that, with the proximity of the house, meant that a 1-story Laneway suite would be more sense than a 2-story in terms of what you can build, if you don't want to try to fight that committee. What this means for your backyard. So there are a number of rules around the backyard, which is defined as the space between the rear main wall of your house and the front wall of the Laneway suite. For illustration, this has the sloped roof and some solar panels, which we'll get to. So this is the backyard. So we're required to have soft landscaping, which is true whether you put a Laneway suite or not. The percentages are a lot higher, and it's compensating for that you've got this building. When we've crunched the numbers, because like you guys, I geek out on numbers a bit, it's actually, if you built an as-of-right garage and followed our 50% soft landscaping rules, you end up with the same amount of soft landscaping as they're asking us to do here, which is 60% of this yard has to be soft landscaping when you have a narrow lot. Narrow is defined as less than 6 meters wide, or roughly 20 feet, 19 feet and change. If you're more than 6 meters wide, that's kind of a magic number in the city for all sorts of zoning bylaws, they want 85% soft landscaping. This is probably the principal reason projects are going to community adjustment right now, because 85% soft landscaping means, this is an illustration of 60. 85 means you don't get the patio, you've got a path through there. Another requirement is the section by the laneway here has to be 75% soft landscaping, except, because you're going to say that's not 75% yet, no, it's not. If you have a garage, the driveway to access the garage is excluded from the calculation. If you don't have a garage, most of this is supposed to be planted. It's about beautifying and greening the laneways. Yes?
What do you mean by soft landscaping? What would this consider soft landscaping?
And so the city has defined, in the old zoning bylaw, they were very clear. Soft landscaping meant something that can support the growth of plants. And to me, that made a lot of sense. The new bylaw actually doesn't have that definition. It just says soft landscaping. So it means not hard. It sounds silly, but it means not patio stones, not a deck.
A bunch of
Does it
guys.
mean gravel? I don't know. To me, a gravel parking pad, probably not, because it wouldn't support the growth of plants. That was actually a better definition. But a Zen garden of sand, well, sure, if you don't weed it, it's going to support the growth of plants. So it's really about allowing rainwater to penetrate into the ground on your site and not flood the city's storm sewer system. And therefore, when we have a big storm event, flood raw sewage into the harbor. So if you've ever been down to the harbor the day after a storm event, you'll understand why we have these kind of rules. It's why we have this program to disconnect downspouts. And we really encourage infiltration of water on the ground. They have not connected this to whether you put a green roof on here. I personally think they should, because a green roof does the same thing. It holds rainwater back and releases it slowly. So it has the same beneficial effect to the city. But for now, if you have a lot of landscaping here, we're going to have to change it and make it plants and soft material. So, I'd like to say, we tend to focus much more on the building and the house and not the garden, but gardens in Toronto are fantastic spaces. These are the places we live in. Services, I'm going to touch on a little more detail, but the key thing about services is the city says this is one lot. It's not two houses. And that actually was, interestingly enough, for like 10 years, people have been trying to get Laneway, well, more than that, but lots can't actively, trying to get Laneway Housing in Toronto. About 3 years ago, the folks at Evergreen Foundation hit on the idea that if we stop calling it Laneway Houses and call it Laneway Suites, which is what the bylaw says, it's a Laneway suite, that it's kind of like taking your basement suite and sticking it on top of your garage. And the light bulb went off, and the city planning staff said, we could get behind that, because it's not a house behind a house. So part of that is they don't want these to be two lots. They are adamantly, the city is very clear, they are not going to let you come along and apply a committee to sever this and sell this as a separate piece of land. If you think that's what you're going to do, good luck at the OMB. But the city has made really, really clear that's not in the official plan, it's not in the zoning bylaw, it's just not on. And one of their strategies to make sure that doesn't happen is to say that all of your services have to come from the main street, the same service. You can have one water line, one sewer line from the city. So it's going to be really hard if you did try to go to the OMB and sever that property, and now your sewer runs across your neighbor's property. I don't want to be that neighbor with your sewer running under my property.
What about power lines? I know a lot of these neighborhoods actually have city power, lines and power poles right beside them, which can get in the way of a two-story building, right?
Absolutely
So
can.
What do you do in those situations?
So there's I think two questions in there. There's electrical power and how we get there, and there's what about those poles in the back laneways, which in 90-95% of the city lanes are actually Bell and Rogers and streetlights. They're not. The Toronto Hydro might own them, but they're not the primary service. So the first question, the primary electrical service for most people's houses in the city comes off the street. Hydro and the ESA have rules that you have to have your mast near the street. Toronto Hydro is quite amenable to second meters, third meters, as any of you invested multi-units know. You can get 3 electrical meters. You may not have legal permission from the city for 3 apartments. They'll still give you 3 electrical meters. They'll inspect your illegal renovation, and they run the don't ask, don't tell policy. So they want it safe. Like, there's no good reason not to get an ESA inspection, believe me, like, no good reason. Wire yourself, call in the ESA, I mean, you're doing yourself a favor. So you can get a separate meter. I highly recommend it. If you're thinking of the Laneway Suite as an income property, put a second meter here, run the conduit along the side of the house, that ugly gray plastic, on the side. You get down here, dive down in the ground, bury it down, direct bury, back to here, it pops up, you got your panel. 200 amp service. If you want a garage in there, you can charge your Tesla off of it, you're fine. 200 amp service, you can power electric heat pumps and cooling, air conditioning, induction cooktop, laundry, hot water. You don't need gas. Everything's electric, everything's on one bill, and I'm a huge fan of green design and saving energy, and the best incentive is give people control of their bill. They will save energy. And you as a landlord have no headaches. You're not splitting bills between 2 units, you're not covering their heat, you're not getting into complaints about temperature. So go electric. It's also, from an ecological perspective, the only form of green energy we have. All our renewables, wind, solar, hydro, clean, not renewable, but clean nuclear energy. It's all electric. 90% of our grid in Ontario is clean energy with no greenhouse gas emissions associated with it. This is not like the rest of North America. Only Quebec and Manitoba are cleaner. Electricity is a super green energy in Ontario. Highly encouraging. The other thing I would say is if you've ever dealt with Enbridge to get a gas meter moved or installed, you know, much as you might think hydro is a nuisance, and Bell and Rogers, Enbridge takes the cake. Many thousands of dollars, no say in it, no saying when they come, and I don't even know if they would give you a second meter in service back here. You can tee off your gas line, but I wouldn't recommend going off your barbecue with this little half-inch line there. Getting back there and trying to heat the house, you'll suddenly find you can't cook dinner because all the gas service is gone back there. So gas is like water, size of pipe matters for flow. You'll end up with a new gas line all the way from your meter back there to get the power, to get the load you need. So, question?
You say water runs off the same as well, or can you, is it another, so you run another tap out to the street?
So, no, you have to have one line where it hits city property. So what we usually recommend, and 1 meter. So what we recommend, if your meter's almost always at the front of the house in the basement, typically. We recommend go to where the meter is. As soon as you come past the meter, tee off, put a new 3/4 inch line. Big fan of Vipart PEX, it's a very eco-friendly PEX, plastic continuous line. Run that line, we can work with you on how you get it there. Run it through your basement, 4 feet deep underground, back here, pop up. When you flush the toilet here, you're not gonna scald someone in the shower in the main house. So again, don't take it off the convenient line in your laundry room at the back, little half-inch line, that it's the end of 200 feet of piping. You'll regret it. Or you're gonna get phone calls and you'll be getting your property manager to field the calls about how awful the water pressure is. So new water line, new electrical line. Those are actually the easy ones. The hard one is sewers. Sewers have to run downhill, obviously. They've got to run from here, and again, you got to get back to the street because I've only seen one laneway so far where the lines have actually been in the lane. They're always out here on the street in Toronto. So your sewer has to get from here. It has to stay frost protected so that it freeze. Practically speaking, building code wise, that means 4 feet below ground minimum. So you start here at 4 feet and you go downhill, and you go downhill. And coming back to how deep your lot is, if you have a shallow lot, it's not so bad. If you have a really deep lot, you're really deep when you hit the basement. And so you may or may not be at a depth that you can tie easily into your basement existing sewer lines. There's solutions, there's sewage pumps, there's lots of technical solutions, but that's one of the things that will vary house by house. The only way to tell us to do a site visit and assess it and look at the work involved. So site servicing work, all of this together to get site servicing might range from $15,000 to $35,000 on a site. It will depend a lot on the particular conditions of that property. You may get lucky with power. I was looking at one the other day where there is a power line right here and a transformer, and they want to build a laneway suite there. The main service of the house comes in off the street. I said, why not ask Toronto Hydro? We're going to see. Will they put a new service in? It'll be one line, really easy. Those poles that are in the way, coming down the street, I've never heard of anyone getting them moved. Those, I think they're owned by Toronto Hydro. They have streetlights on them, they have Bell and Rogers lines. I don't think they're going anywhere. If they're in the way of your building, I don't imagine Bell and Rogers are going to be too happy to cut their lines in your neighbor's internet service to make your building happen. I don't think that's on. So you're going to have to figure out a way around it. Beautiful backyards. I love these outdoor rooms. We designed them with people. I really like them. Unfortunately, that's not 85% or even 60% soft landscaping to answer the question of what's soft. That little bit maybe is. Maybe the gravel, but the rest of it's hard. So if this was your yard and you wanted a laneway suite back there, we're going to have to tear it out and rebuild it. Or go to committee of adjustment. And that's certainly possible. Trees. I love trees. I was a woodworker for years and probably doing my karmic decks that restore all my build up into things. Trees are protected in Toronto. Very strong tree protection bylaws. Private trees in the backyard are protected when they're more than 30 centimeters or a foot in diameter. There's rules about how you measure them, but basically that's the rule. And you can't harm them, kill them, cut them down, and put a laneway suite in. You might get permission to put an addition on your house and get permission from urban forestry to remove a tree and replant. City Council has been very clear about urban forestry and the committee of adjustment to say do not allow the removal of healthy mature trees for the sake of a laneway suite. So this is another thing you check. You've got to check, whether your lot's eligible, depth, width. Look out for trees. Look out for big trees in your neighbor's yard because their footprint may be where you want to build. And it really is, they can just say no, there is no appeal over it. Council's not going to back you. You're not going to make it a T-lab over a tree. To be very clear, there is no really good reason to do it.
Can you
Yes.
Can you build around, like, can you incorporate it into the design?
Absolutely, yeah. And you can work with, it's not that you can't build near them, but you can't damage and destroy their roots. You work with an arborist, you get clever with your foundation design. So they don't let it off the truck without a check. Certified
It's
check.
not standard mortgage stuff. Hugo comes by often to join our meetups. He wasn't able to make it tonight, but if you guys have specific questions around how to finance this kind of project, reach out to me. I can put you in touch.
Absolutely. It's a lot about financing. So together, I think we are going to transform our laneways from that to that, create more housing while we're doing it. Where do you start? Here's the offer. If you want, I've given you lots of information, download the guide, get the PDF slides. You guys are smart, you can do your own assessments. If you want my help doing the assessment, it's a $450 service. We assess if your property is eligible for a laneway suite, how much and what can you build, how hard will it be to service, approximate, I'm going to stress approximate project costs, we can get you rough budgets for it. That's what we charge to do it, but it's a thanks to the guys from Volition. We're going to say, you come tonight, you reach out through Volition, tell us you want us to come and assess something for you, we'll do it for $250, taxes in for you. You got to reach out through these guys.
$250 taxes.
Thanks. I mean, this is we don't sell stuff, and obviously we're not pushing you guys to go do this kind of thing. But it's really nice being able to offer this to the members here tonight. Is there anything else?
That's it. I'm done.
So thank you very much.
I'm going to stick around for a while, so anyone who has questions that we didn't cover or about your own specific property, feel free, pick my brain. You got my contact in the brochure, you can find me easily. Have a great evening.
Thank you very much. Just a couple of things, sorry, before we break. So for those of you who are looking at investing either in these kind of properties or in laneway suites, or you're interested in the construction behind it, we do offer, sorry guys, we do offer a 60-minute advisory. So this is a complimentary service for first-time clients. We sit down with you, we go through your finances, we talk about how we can meet your goals, kind of based on where you are today and where you want to get. We talk about things like, if laneways are options, how to maybe multiplex a unit that you have currently, things like that. So if you're interested, please come and sign up. We will have an iPad up here for you to do so. Secondly, these meetings are all set up for you guys. So next month we have talk about joint ventures, so investing with other people's money. So if you're interested, please come to that. But if there's any other things you want to learn about, please reach out to me. Because these meetings are for you guys, so if I don't have an itinerary, then we don't know what you guys want to learn.
So one more thing, so if you do want to sign up and to talk to any of us one-on-one, we are going to have a sign-up board or form.
We'll have the iPad.
Okay, we'll have a sign-up iPad over there.
Yeah.
So you can enter your name, contact information, and we'll contact you shortly after.
And we're until 10 p.m. We've got the room. So thank you very much for coming in today. Please network.